if you have a cover crop or weeds growing in a field that you're trying to plant soybeans in, you need a good Burndown. We're going to talk about some of the options that you have for herbicides that you can use, timings, and also application methods to get the best control.
All right, the first product I want to talk about is the one that I really hate to use, but in some cases you may need to use this. It's Grimek. Now, with Grimek, the price has kind of gone up and down here in the last few years, so I don't know for sure what you're going to have to spend in terms of total cost for this, but here's what we do know about Grimek. Number one, it's the most dangerous product that we handle anymore on the farm. It's just as dangerous as gasoline, so you have to be super careful with this product. If you're going to use it, you want to make sure that you're out there on a nice, warm, sunny day, get great coverage, use a lot of water, and the product can work pretty well.
Grimek is a non-selective herbicide that will kill both grasses and broadleaves. It doesn't move down into the root system like Roundup will, so it'll just kind of control the top growth, but it works really quick. You're going to like the speed of control. Just make sure you're using a strong enough rate for the weeds that you're dealing with.
Why did we start by talking about Grimek today? It's because we still find a lot of people, unfortunately, using 2,4-D in front of their soybeans. We would absolutely encourage you, do not use any 2,4-D in front of your soybeans. There's way too much risk. We've seen too much crop injury with 2,4-D in front of soybeans. Now, sure, if it's in list beans, if those are approved, then 2,4-D can be used on those beans. But otherwise, no way, no how should you be using 2,4-D in front of beans. Could you do it though, let's say a month in advance? Okay, I'm fine a month in advance. But the label will say, depending on the rate, 7 to 14 days in advance. That's not enough for me. Just think about it early in the season. It's cold. Okay, are we going to break down that herbicide real quickly? No way. It's just not going to happen. You've got too much risk. As farmers, we have enough risk already. I have people complaining to me all the time about commodity prices and weeds and this problem and that problem and everything else. Why add more problems to ourselves? No way. Do not use 2,4-D unless you're at least a month in front of planting.
Well, the big concern with 2,4-D as well, it doesn't control any of the grasses, and yes, broadleaves may be your primary thing that you're after, but grasses are out there too. Why not kill them both at the same time? The same would hold true with dicamba. If you're spraying dicamba ahead of Xtend soybeans, that would be fine, but there's a couple things to keep in mind here. If you want dicamba to work well, it needs to be a little warmer. If it's 45 or 50 degrees in the morning, it might be tough for that dicamba to work 100%. So if you want the best performance out of any of these burn down options, wait until you have some good weather.
All right, it's the same thing with Roundup. If you want to use Roundup in the spring, if the nighttime temp's going to be below 50 degrees, we're going to tell you bump that rate by probably 50% if it's still on label. If the nighttime temp is below 32 degrees, you've got to wait and do your burn down later. Now, I already mentioned 2,4-D. I hate it as a burn down product. I also hate Sharpen as a burn down product. And don't get me wrong, I love Sharpen. It's fantastic in front of corn. It is fantastic in front of wheat. Great product. The trouble in front of soybeans is you can't use a high enough rate or you're going to end up with crop injury. And what we want out of our PPO is we want residual for 1 to 2 months. Well, you can't get that out of Sharpen. So instead of Sharpen, use Valor or Authority. The burn down won't be quite as good with Valor or Authority, but the residual is going to be phenomenal compared to Sharpen.
Well, you can heat those products up by adding oil to them and putting ammonium sulfate in, as long as you don't have dicamba in the mix. That would be a good option and a good way to use those pre's in our 3 pre program. The other one, Brian, is Metrobutan. You want to talk about that?
All right, so Metrobutan absolutely is a decent burn down product. When you have that in combination with a PPO like Valor or Authority, that is much, much better than just the PPO by itself. And again, like Darren said, throw in crop oil, throw in ammonium sulfate, you get all that in there, you've got a pretty good burn down. If that's not enough for you, that's where you can go Grimek in front of most soybeans, or you certainly could throw in dicamba in front of Xtend soybeans.
Another option that you may use in burn down to try and heat things up is AIM. It doesn't have any residual, so you don't have rotational restrictions for the most part here as you're putting this product in, which is great. And we'll also hear some guys talking about a product called Vita, which doesn't have quite the safety complex. We're a little nervous about that one. It's not normally one that we'd be using.
Well, once again, there are a lot of different options out there. Number one thing I tell you, don't use 2,4-D. Number two thing I tell you, don't use Sharpen. Now, sure, you can use both of those if you're way in front of planting, but if you're within a month of planting, I'm not going to use either one of those. I'm going to run with, in front of soybeans, our normal 3 pre program. If you need to spike it up with some AIM or Grimek or dicamba in the right situation, go ahead and do that.
All those things would sure help when you're trying to control our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?